Hey, it's Sadesh Girdhari, and today we have Vince. Vince, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, folks. I'm Vince Prignano, and I'm a staff engineer at VMware.
Thanks, Vince. And one of the things that we were talking about when we started this discussion was, hey, what is it that you do here at VMware? And I was kind of excited, when I heard what you're responsible for, and I think others might be as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I'm right now the tech lead for Cluster API for VMware. Upstream, I'm the SIG co-chair for Cluster Lifecycle. And what we do is we're trying to make Cluster Lifecycle boring. Kubernetes has been an incredible machine to get up and running and maintain. So this project is trying to make that a lot easier.
Nice. And are you part of a bigger team? Or do you lead the team? How would you characterize that?
Yeah, so I'm the tech lead for my team. My team is like 5 people today, and we all work upstream. We work directly within TKG and Tanzu. And what we do is to make sure that like Tanzu is successful upstream and the upstream projects are also successful.
Nice. And one of the things that we kind of talked about a little bit was the other projects that are using cluster API lifecycle. And so I think you listed out a couple of those, but just for the audience's benefit, what would you kind of name as being part of sort of contributors and interested in the future of the project?
Yeah, cluster lifecycle like spans across like a bunch of different projects. Cluster API is definitely one of them and one of the most active ones today. It actually the cluster API actually has like a lot of sub projects as well. So we have like around 10, 20 repos that we maintain.
Right.
There's like a different maintainers like all across the board. And then at the heart of cluster lifecycle, there is also KubeADM, which ships with Kubernetes, which is an integral piece of all of this. KubeADM made this all possible. And if folks don't know, like KubeADM is a Kubernetes bootstrapper. It can take your machine, you can do KubeADM in it and create the first control plane. Then you can start joining other machines with KubeADM join. And then also like run KubeADM upgrades if you want to upgrade your clusters over time. Cluster API like is a layer on top of KubeADM, which then like manages the cluster lifecycle across like a bunch of machines.
And I mean, what's really nice about that is it makes the day two operations for any team working on it a lot simpler. If you've ever had to do that manually, I did the project for sort of Kubernetes the hard way, and it is indeed hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's like probably just the first step, right? Like, and then like taking that to like day 10 operations where you have forgotten your configurations as well. We try to make sure to always reconcile this cluster, to always health check these clusters,
Yeah.
and which is, a key integral piece for production readiness.
Nice. And one thing that we tend to ask folks, especially folks that are going to be presenting at KubeCon, so that other folks understand kind of a little bit more about the background of who you are and how you got to sort of do what you're doing, is a little bit about your career and your progression in your career. Where you started would be helpful, and then we can talk a little bit more.
Yeah, so I've had the fortune of working with Go my entire like professional career. I started at Segment here, and which was acquired by Twilio recently, and I started working on the infrastructure side of things, Go applications, and a lot of microservices. Segment grew over time. Kubernetes was very nascent at the time, and we were still running things on top of ECS. And then, like after like a few years of like running this application at scale, we kind of like started progressing towards Kubernetes and like what this means for container management, like across like all these teams and applications that want to cooperate with each other as well. And then 3 years ago, I joined Haptio because I wanted to work in open source a lot more. And I reached out to Joe Beta and asked like if there were any open positions. And now we're here 3 years later after Haptio got acquired by VMware. And the journey has been amazing. Yeah, totally.
So, I mean, I think what's cool about that is that you got to see Kubernetes in its infancy. Working with Go is obviously beneficial because it gave you a step up in understanding, what does a language look like that is really efficient. But I'm sure that there are many conversations around Go as well. Um, when you started, it's I think you started out with the AWS provider. Is that right?
Correct. Yes. Like when I first joined Heptio, like I started like one of the infrastructure provider. I've been most familiar with the AWS infrastructure,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I started with the AWS provider, which was the first one that actually supported the Alpha 2 version of Cluster API, and uh, and then from there, once you start touching like the bits and pieces of each infrastructure provider, you see like this is a piece in a bigger machinery. And so I started like looking around, like what is the bigger machine that we're talking about and how all pieces fit together. And there's a lot of pieces here. So Cluster API is like the one
Yeah.
that contains a bunch of these pieces. And so there's the core repository that contains the Bootstrap provider, which is kubeATM right
Yep.
now. And then it contains the machinery for creating these machine deployments, which are kind of deployments in Kubernetes, if folks are more familiar with that, which then create machine sets, which are related to replica sets, and then which we create machines under the hood. And that's how we manage Kubernetes at the end of the day.
Nice. And one other thing I think we like to understand is what advice would you have about how somebody may start out kind of building their career, right? Like I think a lot of folks, and this leads into I think you're going to be part of the SIG in that conversation. How do folks start to engage if they're really interested in this particular space? What's a good way to get started for folks that might be watching out there and they're like, well, I really like what you're talking about, and I'm very big into these day two operations and how to simplify this overall cluster management. What do you recommend?
Starting up is usually, it could be overwhelming at first, right? It's like there is like a lot of these contributors, there is a lot of people in the community like reviewing PRs and things like that. But the thing to remember is like everybody is really welcoming, and we try to make space to new contributors at every time. We have a community meeting on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Yep.
And it's a good way to show up and just say hi. Like we leave space at the start of the meeting to just pop in and just introduce yourself. Looking at the GitHub issues in our backlog, which is
Yep.
pretty well maintained, it's also a good way to start. We have also some good first issues, which we tag from time to time, and these help wanted issues. So those labels like help you like kind of navigate. And the other one is to reach out in the Kubernetes cluster lifecycle channel
Yeah.
or the cluster API channel upstream
Okay.
in the Kubernetes Slack, where we're very active. And I'm sure that like if you want to learn more, like these are like a good thing to start up contributing. And we have a book as well, which is cluster API .xcades.io.
Okay.
It's our primary source of truth, and it's also like well maintained, and it contains a quick start, so you can start trying things out before contributing as well.
Nice. And I think one of the other ways, obviously, is to watch your talk, whether virtual or in person at KubeCon. And can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about and why you chose the topic?
Oh, sorry, what?
Sorry, and why you chose the topic. Like,
Oh, got it.
yeah.
Yeah, so this is the talk that we're going to do is like all the cluster lifecycle chairs are getting together to explain like what cluster lifecycle is and do a deep dive of the hierarchy of the projects, like how they relate to each other, how do we reuse more projects to make like other projects better,
Mhm.
how do we collaborate with other SIGs, and how it's folks can start contributing. Truthfully, like this is a good way to get an overall view of what SIG cluster lifecycle does
Yeah.
and what we aim to do, like in the fullness of time.
Nice. And the for folks who may be new to the SIG cluster lifecycle, um, there was a mention of something called Voltron, and I was wondering if you define that for the audience.
That's so Tim Sinclair actually made up that, which I think it comes from Star Trek. I think
You
I
have to
remember.
figure that out, huh?
Yeah. What we do really mean, it wasn't Star Trek. It's the Voltron Paladins of the Legendary Defenders, I guess. But
Yes.
it's like you can imagine as like this big machinery that does like all these things, and then like but it has like lots of components inside of itself that cooperate with each other. And truthfully, that is one of the best way to visualize what these controllers and Kubernetes do at the end of the day. So Tim has been talking about Voltrons for a year, and I think like we're getting there, right? Like we're building Voltron while we're also using it at the same time, which has been a fun journey. And that's also like though like one of the things that sometimes overwhelms people, and like but we try to make sure that like all these pieces of Voltron at the end of the day can, one, cooperate with each other, two, they can be ripped out and also like replaced by maybe like custom implementation or something like that.
Right.
But we're all about extensibility as well.
Yeah, and I really like that about the project overall, is that, depending on what you're embracing as sort of your platform natives, right? You can kind of swap things in and out that would be helpful for your particular use case. Now, that's all good and fine that you're going to be giving a talk, but let's talk about things that you do for fun. And really here, what are you doing when you're not working and making awesome decisions around cluster lifecycle? What do you do for fun?
Totally. I'm in the Bay Area, and like one of the things we do here is go on hikes, go outdoors, and enjoy the sunshine, which we get a lot. I love playing with my dogs. With my dog, his name is Happy.
All right.
And cooking is
nice.
like, it's like I do pizza like pretty much every week.
Nice.
Maybe every other week now, like and lots of seafood. And I'm also a huge Star Wars fan as well. So like I try to keep up with like everything about Star Wars.
What is your what's your take on the Star Wars series on Disney? Is it are you a fan? Not a fan? What do you think?
We're getting a lot of more Star Wars content.
Yeah.
Like, The Mandalorian was incredibly awesome, and I mean, the good thing about Star Wars, it's like it's always one of these things that like at the end it makes you feel good about it. It's all about family. It's all about like this relationship with this character. But it's I mean, I've grown up with it, and it definitely is also in my day to day, right? It's like
nice. Well, Vince, believe it or not, we're at the end of our time, and I really appreciate you chatting with us today. Look forward to seeing you at KubeCon if I make it in person, and also look forward to future talks that you might be involved with and visiting with you again. So thanks again, and really enjoyed the talk.